All right, ladies, welcome back to the other side of weight loss. With me today is the lovely Pam Sherman, back for a third, or what are we at now, Pam? Four. Okay, we are back for the fourth time, and you'll be seeing more of Pam because recently Pam and I joined forces, and we are now running a program together for women in peri and post-menopause, which we're going to talk about today. So Pam's journey is that she has been a coach for 24 plus years and an amazing coach and my personal trainer. Starting as a group exercise instructor and personal trainer. After struggling with her own weight, Pam started strength training in 2014 and has never looked back. And you can find Pam on her Instagram and YouTube channel, which I think are the best places to find her because she's constantly putting amazing content out there. And recently Pam has put, and you've done this a lot, but recently I noticed that you put a before and after picture of yourself on Instagram. So everybody go check it out. I'm going to link to her Instagram in the show notes. Pam did not come to this easily, everybody. And I appreciate that because you'll see these fitness gurus that were literally like they jumped out of their mother's uterus, ripped with a six pack. And we all know that that can be very challenging to get to that, body shape. As women, it can be very challenging if you are not genetically superior, like some people are. Pam did struggle with weight, and you can look at her now. She's in the best shape of her life. And she is how old, Pam?
55.
55. And she is walking the walk, or what is it? Talking the talk, walking the walk. You are just listening to your own advice. Let's just put it that way. So welcome, Pam. Thanks for coming back to the show.
I'm super excited about today's episode because we have so much great information to share.
Yes. Tell the audience what we're going to talk about.
Well, we're going to talk about how I impacted Karen's life as her personal trainer and how she affected my life, helping me with my thyroid because I've always had low thyroid. I don't know if I have hypothyroidism. Karen can talk about that. But I had some issues going on that my doctor could not figure out, that Karen figured out. As well as a coach, we both hear about women struggle with their weight, but sometimes we got to look at the non-scale victories, which can be ginormous. Personally, when I gained weight, I grew out of my underwear and my bra. Wow. When I could fit back in, that was a victory.
Yes. That is a great non-scale victory. Fitting back into the bra and underwear. Yes. So you do a lot of food and fitness coaching. I do a lot of hormone and weight loss coaching. And every single day, I think we can agree that when we're speaking to our clients, they are so hyper-focused on the scale, which we understand. We ourselves can be hyper-focused on the scale as well. Like we're not
just raise my hand. Yes.
Yes, we are not claiming to be perfect, ladies. But we want to talk about why it's so important to have non-scale goals and then to recognize those non-scale victories. And we're going to talk about some of those with ourselves and our own experience, and then also a little bit about what we're seeing in our practices and in our membership group. So Pam came to me, we started working together last summer. Hey.
You know what? It was, I want to say almost a year because we did our summer challenge together. I think we were in May. So I think it's a year of knowing each other.
Oh, it's our 1 year anniversary, Pam. Oh, that's super. Yeah. That's awesome. So yeah, Pam came to me because she had terrible blood work and hypothyroidism, and she's so healthy. She eats so well. She's exercising and going, how can this possibly be that I have such terrible blood work? And I was even like, how, Pam is right. Like you are the epitome of health. But then you looked at her lab work and you talked to how she felt with some of her symptoms. And it was like, oh, there is something going on here. And for Pam, what I saw in her blood work and talking to her and about her symptoms was that she really had a gut infection. There was something going on. You were experiencing, well, maybe just tell the audience what you were experiencing as far as the symptoms went.
I mean, we're talking about everything here on your show, so I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah.
I had diarrhea most days of the week, multiple times a day, and the doctor that I had, she just didn't seem very concerned because I'm so healthy. I'm putting my, fingers in the air. I'm so healthy, but I was like, something is not right now. My family has been gluten-free and dairy-free. I don't eat a lot of sugar. I don't drink. My workouts are moderate. I didn't have a lot of extra stress, so I couldn't figure out what was going on. And Karen's like, uh, you got something going on with your gut. We got to fix it. I was like, finally, somebody that actually is listening to me because, once in a while that happens to all of us, but on a daily basis, that means I wasn't absorbing any of my nutrition. My poor body is just fighting to feel good. I was exhausted, of course, because you lose all that and you're just tired. I felt like I was behind the eight ball all the time.
Yeah, that's crazy. And and you don't need to be feeling that way. And the other thing that Pam had going on was she was put on oral estrogen and testosterone. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which you never ever want to take oral estrogen or oral testosterone because it has to go through the first hepatic pass of the liver. And when you're taking it orally, it will increase your risk because of that first hepatic path. It can increase your risk of heart attack and stroke. It can be very inflammatory. And when you're taking oral estrogen, it actually turns into estrone, which is the most inflammatory of the estrogens and is the one that we can't use in our brain. It's estradiol that we use in the brain. Estrone is made in the fat tissue. It's inflammatory. It's the one that will cause us to gain weight in menopause. And then estriol is another estrogen, and that's predominantly in the vagina tissue. So here she was getting loads of this estrone, which is going to make her inflamed, is going to affect her liver. And we saw that in her labs. We saw that her liver enzymes were up. Her sex hormone binding globulin was up, which is another thing that it'll just bind up the hormones. And when you're taking it orally, it will increase this protein that will bind up all your hormones and bind up your thyroid. It will increase thyroid binding globulin. And so here she was thinking she was doing things right. She was seeing a great practitioner, but she was on the wrong stuff and it was affecting her lab work. And so we went in at it and we attacked the gut. I put her on an antimicrobial protocol, killing off that infection in the gut and then rebuilding the gut bacteria and healing and sealing up that gut lining. So that was huge. And we just got her newest labs back and so interesting. Hey, Pam, like what happened in the last 6 months? And we also supported your liver. That was huge. We really supported the liver. We switched out what hormones she was doing. We moved over to topical. We took the right supplements for Pam. And lo and behold, she just got her lab work back and almost everything dropped back to normal. The only two things that had really changed that stood out to me was her, the cholesterol had gone up a little bit and so did the insulin, but that's because her thyroid is under functioning still. She is very intolerant to thyroid medication, so she's not getting thyroid. So that's kind of the next step for Pam is she's going to start working on that. But huge non-scale victories. So where are you at now? How are you feeling? I know you're not 100% on the thyroid, but the gut and liver, and how are you feeling?
I don't have that crushing fatigue in the middle of the day. Of course, I would love the thyroid to be, we're working on that optimal functioning optimally. And you don't know what you don't know. So I didn't know I shouldn't be taking the oral HRT. Like I just did what my doctor, and you're like, no. And I was very lucky. I had Karen write me an email, which I forwarded to my doctor saying, I'm working with a thyroid specialist. Can I please have this? And for my thyroid medication and my HRT, my doctor's like, okay, which is great because I was afraid she'd be offended. Like, do I sound like a jerk saying, I still want you to prescribe me, but I want to take this lady's advice instead?
Which a lot of doctors definitely will get their tits in a knot, let's say. So I really think your doctor's great because she is open to a different recommendation, which I think is, she's really putting her ego aside, which is very helpful. So that all of those things, non-scale victories. And that is something that I want all of the listeners to hear as something that I want you all to do. When you start out on this journey, whether it's a weight loss journey, or you probably feel like you've been on the weight loss journey for like 40 years or 20 years, but let's say you're starting again, which we do all the time. Like, let's start the diet again. Let's start the fitness program again. So if that's you and you're going, okay, I'm going to, try this now, then I want you to take labs. I want you to do labs now, and I want you to do labs in 3 months from now. Right when you know that you're going to do that, it actually helps you to stick with a program, because you're in the back of your head, I got to check my labs again in 3 months and they better be freaking better. So that is one of the best non-scale victories that you can look at, which is before and after lab work of implementing healthy eating and exercise. And what is this going to do for you? And each of us is different. So you like Pam, we had to do gut stuff. We had to do liver stuff. You might be completely different. You may have heavy metals, you might have mold, you might have all these other things, but test, don't guess, and then test afterwards. So you can see if there's been an improvement, because that will propel you forward to stick to the program that you're on, the healthy eating, the fitness, whatever it might be. So now to me, coming from your side of things, Pam, working with me, what did you see and hear that were my non-scale victories? I had scale victories too, but I really had quite a few non-scale victories.
Well, I feel like you had not been consistent with your exercise. And in my opinion, strength training is the fountain of youth, and every woman should be doing it because it changes your body. And just like the labs, when I asked you to start tracking your food, when you knew I was going to look at it, you were like, holy shit, I have to actually eat more protein. Pam's going to be looking at this. It's the accountability that made you successful. And when you were regular with your workouts, you saw a change in your bum. That's what you said.
Yes, everywhere. But I really noticed it in my butt, which made me really happy. But yeah, it was that consistency and the accountability that were a huge victory for me.
And strength training on the regular changes your body, help with your mindset. You can get more done in less amount of time. I mean, Karen, I'm older than you, but in the 80s and 90s, as women, we're told cardio, cardio, cardio. And here I'm saying, no, no, strength train, strength train, strength train. Do a little hit for your cardio, but let's not do the 45 minutes or hour of cardio. You don't need that to change your body, to lose weight. But that's been ingrained in us for 30 years, 40 years. And I'm like, nope, let's put that aside. Let's do this. And you're like, okay. And it was great.
It was amazing. And you also put in like yoga and stretching and like fundamentals, I think is what I would call those, like where it's like you still have to take that time out to, calm the system down, do a day of yoga. And I love that. And you put that into all your programs, is yoga days, stretching days, things like that.
Yes, because I think we are like squirrels. We want the shiny object. They want to try, women want to try the extreme stuff. Like, it does not have to be extreme, but you do need one day of a break to breathe and to stretch. And I do have stretching at the end of all my workouts that I sent you and all the workouts that I have. You need strength and then you need some hit. But yes, we need to calm down and to breathe. So a well-rounded program, as opposed to crazy, 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 crazy is going to make you starving. And if you're trying to lose weight, that's what we're trying to avoid.
Yeah. I noticed things like when I first started, when I would do squats, I always had this pain in my knee. And I remember you telling me like to adjust what I was doing so that I would take the pressure off my knee. And then as my legs got stronger, that pain completely went away. My low back aches went away. I could bend down to my dryer and take the laundry out. And I used to be like, my knees would start to hurt. And I can do that pain-free now, which was huge. And just walking, like, I know that sounds so pathetic, but walking, like going for long walks, my legs would get tired and they'd get a little sore, and nothing extreme. And this is why I want to talk about this, because we sometimes don't even realize when something's gotten better because it's just a small thing. And so my legs, I just thought that was normal. What I was feeling was normal. And then it dawned on me, I'm like, wait a second. One day I was like, my legs are so strong and they're not getting tired at all. No huffing and puffing anymore. I could my heart was stronger, even though I wasn't doing extreme cardio. My cardio got better from weightlifting and walking. That is it. Huge.
Well, and that's when exercise affects your daily life. We're women, we do laundry all week long. That's 10 times less a week where you're like, oh, I can bend down and come up. Like, that's great. Walking, we all should be walking. So if you're out with your family or your sister and you're shopping and you aren't sore, you don't have to rest, like that's quality of life issue. That is fantastic.
Mhm. And confidence. I'm sure that you even got more confidence, just that you're not running to the bathroom all the time. And for me, my confidence definitely went up. I only lost like 5 pounds, but I gained muscle and I gained strength, and that it's amazing what it does for confidence.
Hang on there, friend. Here's what I'm trying to get every woman to do. We are going to break up with the word only and just.
Yes.
So say that sentence again.
I lost 5 pounds. Amazing.
Yes.
And I gained strength, which then made me gain confidence. Thank you.
Yes. You're welcome. Because we all know 5 pounds is a huge thing on the scale. And if you go to the grocery store, you pick up a 5 pound bag of sugar, that is what you lost off your body. When you hold it in your hand, that is a lot of weight. We've all been 5 pounds heavier. I was 30 pounds heavier at one point, but 5 pounds, it mentally, oh my God, it's huge. So that's great. It's not only or just, it's 5 pounds.
Yeah. And women will say, oh, I'll see them at 1 month after we started working together, and they'll be like, I lost only like 4 pounds. And they'll be so disappointed and just be like, oh, and I'm like, and then they'll list all these things that got better. Once you start picking at it, like drawing it out of them, then they'll, oh, well, yeah, I guess, I did, my insomnia is gone, and, like all of these things. So tell me what you are hearing in your practice, like as far as non-scale victories. Like, what are you hearing from your clients that are non-scale victories?
Okay, well, I tell all my clients to take pictures, and it does not have to be bathing suit. It could be a jog bra and shorts. You don't have to be nudie. And to take measurements, because oftentimes your body is reshaping when you're working out, but you might not see a big number change on the scale. I had one client tell me 2 weeks ago, Pam, I have not lost any weight, but there was a 10-inch gap in her favorite pants between the button and the clasp,
Wow. Yeah.
and she fit into the pants. And I was like, that's fantastic. She's like, yeah, but the scale didn't move. And I was like, your body is changing. That's so good.
Yeah. Huge, right? I had a lady like that too, where she really got control of her eating and upped her carbs, which was really, really challenging for her. And the scale never moved, and she was fitting into her skinny pants, because that's what she called them. She wasn't fitting into them before, and then now was fitting into them. And she kept trying to focus on that. And I was so proud of her for doing that, because her brain would pull her down that pathway of, but you still weigh X amount. Terrible, terrible,
terrible.
So one thing that I can say that my clients have noticed as far as their non-scale victories is the hormone stuff, of course, right? Most women will still come to me because, yeah, they'll have these pesky little symptoms, but their main reason is weight loss, because we all tend to gain some weight around perimenopause.
Yep.
And it amazes me how many women shortly after starting with me will come back to say, my sex drive went up or came back. My insomnia is gone. My, 2 a.m. wake ups gone. Less pain in the body, their head clears, their energy increases, and they get off the yo-yo dieting train, which I think is absolutely massive. They may learn to eat just healthy foods and enjoy it. That's huge non-scale victory. They learn to prep cook, and to plan ahead and to make new recipes. Those are huge non-scale victories that will last you a lifetime if you can focus on those things, and will lead to weight loss in the end. Wouldn't you agree?
100%, yes, and I tell women all the time, you don't have to make fancy recipes, okay? Keeping it simple is really gonna be the best way to start, and I bet you get this too, like, what's the best? The best protein is the protein you like to eat. Make a list of what you like to eat, buy at the store every week. You can grill it, you can crock pot it, you can roast it. A million ways to make your protein. Same thing with a veg. What's the best? There's no best. The best is what you like to do. But my rule of thumb is have a ton of protein, base each meal around protein and the rest around veg. And hopefully your meat has some healthy fat in it. Let's not always do a lot of nuts because nuts are super calorie dense. And if you're trying to lose weight, less is more there. Um, and keeping it simple. And if you like to cook, great. You can do the bigger recipes on the weekends, but keeping it simple during the week is really, really huge. And I did have a client say, when I started eating real food, my brain fog went away.
There you go. Yeah. I remember, oh my gosh, that would be 12 years ago when I started the paleo diet. I went into it like hard. I'd been eating very differently. I was doing like the high grain, low fat, low protein
Yep.
diet, thinking I
Yep.
was doing myself a service. Switched to a paleo based diet. And it was so interesting because in 1 month, my body completely changed and I didn't lose a single pound. But if you looked at a before and after picture of me, there was a huge difference. I lost inches, my body got tighter, I got more muscle. And then internally, my blood sugar stabilized, I had more energy. Oh, there were so many good, my skin, my hair, my nails, all of these things got better. And we have to start recognizing these little things that are not about the pounds on the scale because we are way too hyper focused.
Well, no, and I have to tell everybody that when I told Karen to take before pictures, she balked. She's like, oh,
Yeah. Nobody
really?
likes to take before and after pictures, but I
No,
did.
but you get to the after and you're like, I'm so glad. And you don't have to show anybody, it's for yourself to see the change in what your body can do. It's just, and I have women just like, I can't, like, listen, these old girls, and I'm talking about me and you, they've taken us through life, through a lot of hard stuff, through death, through having kids. You got to love yourself and don't take a picture and go, oh my God, like take a picture and look at yourself with love. That's it. Okay. Use it as data for your journey. And I know it's hard to hear. And believe me, I have plenty of before pictures. You can go on social media and see
Yes.
that I'm glad I have those pictures because that showed me at a different time in my life.
Yes. Speaking of pictures, so I'm going to tell this story that just happened to me. I talked about it in the membership group too, because I was going through a bunch of old pictures of mine and I'm seeing they were in the garage, in a bin, stuffed in the back, covered in dust. I have not seen them in over 5 years, possibly like 7 years. So I went in and I'm trying to find these old photos of a friend of mine. And I started looking at all these pictures of me, and I've got this long blonde hair and I'm thinner and I've got, wrinkle-free face. And I started to like get sad and go, oh, look at how youthful I look. And I was pretty. And I started to like get down on myself. And then I'm like, whoa, but remember, you thought you were fat. You thought you didn't look good back then. And then I got so ashamed of myself. And I was like, no, no, no. Like I tell my clients that they have to appreciate where they are right now. And I said that to myself because I said, one day I will look at pictures of me right now and think, look at how great I looked. And so we have to remember that we're only getting older and that right now could be the best you'll look. Like, I don't like to say it like that because that means that when you're older, you don't look good. Youthful,
Yeah.
like we just all,
Yeah.
we do look at ourselves in youth and crave that and be like, oh, look at the wrinkle free, the perky breast, whatever it might
Yeah.
be, the skinny bod. Like we all do that, right? We're all attracted to that. But you have to appreciate where you are because one day you're going to look back on it and be like, look at how great I looked. So best that we appreciate it now.
I was just talking with my workout partner, and we were both saying, like, I have wrinkles. I'm 55, but they're my smile lines and my laugh lines. And I don't love the lines above my lip, but my mom has those. So I know there's a little genetic factor in there. But I'm 55. I'm not going to fill my face with stuff just so I don't look my age. And yes, this is the youngest I'm going to be today. Today is the youngest I'm going to be. And
Exactly.
we
And
got
we
to
have to love it,
celebrate.
whether we're 70, 80,
Yeah.
60, 40, doesn't matter. This is it. This is the only time you get to be this young, whether it be that you're 90, 95, we're only getting older. And so why not try to appreciate where you're at right now and where your body's at right now? Because I don't think a lot of us, I would say 95% of us aren't going to ever get back to what we looked like in our 20s as far as physique goes or weight goes. Right?
I'm more fit and leaner than I was
You
in my
are.
20s. But
Yeah,
I was a marathon runner who ate a gazillion carbs and didn't know how to eat in the 80s. So it's different. I mean, really.
I was the
But
same.
but here's what I have to say to women is that I always start my calls, I know Karen does too, with celebrate your wins. Is we're as women, we are so ready. My clients, I did this wrong and this wrong, and I hate this and this. I'm like, hang on now. What did you do well this week? And did you drink water? Did you get good sleep? Did you find time to work out? Did you bring an apple with you when you left the house? I mean, we are so focused on the negative. Is let's turn that around, please, and focus on the things you do well. That's going to serve you every single day as, oh, I hate my arms, my butt's so big, whatever it is. Let's focus on the things that you love about yourself and the things that you do well. Everybody does things well every single day.
Yes. And so I want everybody that's listening, you're going to go right down, if you're on this journey, a health journey of any kind, more than likely you've got weight loss at the top of that list. And so I want you to flip it. I want you to write down like 5 to 10 things that are goals, that are health goals that have nothing to do with losing weight, that have to do with, I'm going to get more, I want more energy. My goal is to have more energy. My goal is to have better sleep. My goal is to get stronger. My goal is to be, and then do like really little ones, consistent with my workouts, consistent with prep cooking, consistent with eating really healthy foods. If you're just starting out, 20% of the time, one meal a day, say, I'm going to commit to one meal a day being a healthy protein, veg, and some good fats and a good carb, one meal a day, and just start there, like these little tiny goals. If you're farther ahead than that, then you can say, I'm going to focus on 3 meals a day and only having that, the ice cream on the weekends or whatever you have to do. Or I'm going to commit to walking 10 minutes a day. We had some great questions that were brought up in the membership group that Pam and I are doing. So we'll talk about that now. Inside our group, we have weekly group coaching calls. And this is such an amazing opportunity for you women to get access to Pam and I and get very specific questions answered. And I had this woman, I just saw it yesterday. She made a comment on an interview that I did with a thyroid specialist. This was, I interviewed her like 2 years ago. And the woman said, how dare this woman charge $350 a session, and how she, as a psychologist, felt that she always had her prices kept low so that everybody could get her help. And and she was angry about that. She was angry that this woman was charging so much for services to do with the thyroid and for about health. And so I had to just kind of sit back and go, okay, where's this woman coming from? And I thought, okay, I see that. I see the anger, because I remember being in a place where I had no money and I would get angry at the prices that some of these people charge. And I'd be like, oh, I can't afford $500 for one session. I remember I saw somebody actually down in the States, and that's how much it cost them, was 500 American, which is like 650 Canadian for one session. And it was really at that time a huge expense for me. And it did bring up some anger and frustration. And it's like, I want to get this help, but I can't afford it. Some of those functional practitioners right up front, it's like $1,500, $2,000, because with all the lab testing and the visits, and it's super comprehensive. And a lot of people, a very large portion of our society, cannot afford that. But I did think after I read that, I'm like, yes, but so practitioners, maybe that's what, I think that that's okay to charge that for your time, but why not then have an offer for people that can't afford it? Which brings us to our program On Track, which is a month-to-month payment. You can do 3 months, you can do a year. It gets cheaper if you buy farther along. But you can get a year for $600 rather than one session for $600. You can get a month for $60 rather than $350, $400 for one session. And you still get a lot of one-on-one attention. So in the group, we have these weekly coaching calls where our members are sending us their personal questions. They're sending me their labs that they had done. So talking about that before and after labs, you get a list of what labs to have done. I will go through them for you in a coaching call. And then 3 months from then, you can redo them and we can compare them. With Pam, she's answering all these amazing questions around fitness and food behavior and dieting. And you get our help, our attention for a very small fraction of what it would cost to work with us personally. And that is massive. And so I do think that, more practitioners need to have this kind of offer. I'm sure. Do you have any input on that, Pam?
I 20 years ago, I could not have afforded that at all. And I would have been the angry person. 2 little kids. As a group exercise instructor, I was paying for probably half the groceries. Like I didn't make any money. So that's exorbitant. So that at first I was a little outraged when you were saying that. I'm like, no, it was hard to pay for toilet paper and diapers. Like I let alone a $300 or $400 charge. So it is, it's such a great value. And not only is it the coaching calls, you have meal plans. You talk about eating and hormones, like for women in our stage of life, peri, menopause, and post, it's hard there's so much information on the internet. It's hard to know who to believe, right? Because we want to be fixed tomorrow. Well, you and I are not the overnight fixers. We're let's change your habits for long-term health and wellness. And, I've been doing it forever. You've been doing it forever. We have a lot of over 50 years between us of experience. So I think it's such a great value. And that's a total plug for us, but we are amazing and totally worth it. That's what I have to say.
Yes, this is very plugging us, but we also want, like, reading that comment, it just made me think more women need to know about the program, and that is an option, that's something that everybody can afford. We spend way more than that on way more ridiculous things. Even the people that don't have a lot of money, they'll still go to Starbucks every day. Well, Starbucks coffee every day is going to cost you more than a membership is. Like, that's, come on, we'll fork out that money for shoes. We'll fork out that money for the purse, for the new car, for hair to be done. I mean, bloody hell, my hair is like $200 every 2 months. Right. And a lot of women pay the same amount, but then we'll say, oh, but I can't afford to go and get help. So if you really want it, it's there. And that's what's so great, is that whether you want one-on-one or if all you can afford, or maybe that's just your thing, you like the group coaching, you like that community piece of it. A lot of women come into it because of that, because they want to be part of something that's ongoing, that has that group community support. They have access to you and I on a weekly basis. That in and of itself is have such value to it. I think huge value.
Well, I think money is like time. Like we all make time for the things we want to do. If you want Starbucks every day, you will go to Starbucks and get your coffee every day. If it's a $3 coffee, that's 21, that is $84. Yeah, $84 a month on coffee. So it's easy to explain away, like, 60 bucks or whatever, but that is something I think most people, most women can fit into their budget, because it is not just the quick fix for this week or next week. It is, let's get healthier and feel great as we age. I see so many women uncomfortable in their bodies. They're not taking care of themselves. They're not eating right. I'm like, we're all aging. Let's feel great and be strong as we age. You can do it. You just have to put in the money and the time.
Yeah. And then I think that women need to know that can really be the best years of their life. Like, when we can take care of the health issues that come with aging, and we can get rid of all those horrible symptoms that come with losing our hormones. If you can optimize those hormones, you can figure out your perfect diet, your perfect fitness program for you, and you've learned to stick to that. It frees up so much mind space, so much mental capacity space, whatever, to think about all of the other great things about life. And this can honestly be the best years, because this is we become who we really are. That's what I believe. Like, there's a reason why back in the day we were called these were our wise women years. We were known as wise women when we aged, and that is because we gain wisdom. We're no longer taking care of all the kids. Our kids have grown up, or else we're at least stopping having children. Right. And, we've typically figured out the job that we want to do. We figured out the partner that we want to have. And so it finally gets to be about us, and you can really cherish these years and make the best of them and not hate getting older. You can love getting older. I love it. Do you love it?
I do. I mean, my kids are out of college now and they're not at home. And I
Oh,
feel
you're
like
so
this is
lucky.
the next I know. Well, I have one, but my daughter's going to be moving home because she has to take undergrad classes. She's going to PA school, but she'll be out of the house and working and stuff. My raising the kids is done. But I want to go back to something we talked about before we went on air. Is you had just said you're getting off the merry-go-round of starting and stopping.
Mm.
So many women, they start diets, they stop diets, they start working out, they stop working out. This is why what I'm talking about for exercise is not crazy, because I want you, Karen, and you listeners to work out for the rest of your life, because it benefits your life. You are going to stay strong. You're going to be able to pick up groceries when you're 80 years old. You're going to be able to get up off the ground. You're going to be able to lift up your grandkids if you're lucky enough to have grandkids. I don't know if I will any, hopefully someday. But I want to be able to go on vacation with them and lead an active life. So these lifestyle changes that we're talking about is not crazy, but it's to enhance your life as you age. And I know many women struggle with oh, I'm an empty nester. What do I do? Oh my God, you start to take care of yourself. It's time.
Yes. It's like, what do you want to do? And how do you want to feel? And how do you want to live your life now? And this for the second half of your life. It's like we hit 50 and we all just want to throw in the towel. It's like, oh my God, I feel like crap. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it's like, no, none of that has to happen. You can feel the best you've ever felt. Look at Pam. Look at me. We're living our best lives and we feel great. I'm in great shape. It's been amazing.
Well, and unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know what people want to look at this like. Your health is the only thing you are 100% responsible for in your life.
Yeah.
You can't control your kids or your spouse or your job or your dog. Well, dogs are pretty cute, but nobody can do your health for you except for you. So if you are unhappy with how you are feeling in your body, it's up to you to make those changes. And I'm certain you've heard this as well, Karen, is I have clients who want to change, but they don't want to change their habits. And I'm like, I can't help you unless you want to change. How badly do you want to feel better? I've been on both sides. 8 years ago, I felt like crap. I was about 20 pounds heavier, exhausted. I feel better at 55 than I did at 47. I had to do the math. Yeah,
Yeah.
47.
Yes. And same with me. When I was 33, I was a hot mess. I mean, my stomach, I looked like I was 3 months pregnant at all times. I had severe insomnia where I wouldn't sleep all night. I had PMDD before my period. So that was like super emotional, horrible premenstrual syndrome. Gaining weight like crazy. No matter what I did, I just kept packing it on, packing. I was at the heaviest I ever was, and yet was exercising like crazy and nothing was coming off. So
I know.
yeah, I'm way better now than I was back then, much better. So part of today is we wanted to just give you guys some examples of some of the questions that are being asked inside our membership group, and in hopes that this will also, the answers will help the listeners, and for you guys to see what kind of attention you can get inside the group. So let's see, maybe you can start with a question for me. Do you have yours pulled up?
Yes. Karen, why is there a big difference between my saliva test and my serum test for estrogen? Do I have too much or not enough?
Yes. So this is a woman who we're looking at her labs over the last 6 months, and she happened to do both saliva testing and serum testing. And there's a lot of confusion over the two. I actually had somebody else just write me a question about this, about how could she test her hormones. She happened to be the one that wrote in was 64. And so I do go through all of this inside the group coaching program, but saliva is only going to test what's called unbound hormones. The serum is only going to test bound hormones. There's a huge difference between the two. So serum is going to be testing hormones that are bound to a protein called sex hormone binding globulin. That's what Pam had an elevation in from taking too much oral estrogen and testosterone. So it's going to bound it all up and make it so that the cells can't use it. So I like to think of it as like a little bus being shuttled all over your system with carrying the hormones. And the hormones have to get off this bus in order for that cell to be able to pull it in and use it as it should be. So when you're testing your hormones, you really want to see what's available for you to use, because you could have really healthy levels of bound up hormones and have very low levels of free available hormones. So I always have people do at least saliva or Dutch with blood work. I think you have to do both. You have to test your hormones. You want to test the bound levels and you want to test the unbound free levels of hormones. And then the urine one will test, it will give you a reflection of available hormones as well as how you're breaking those hormones down. So all of it is really important. But as you can see, this member had very different results, which is just proof that why you want to look at both of them. She needs to see what bound levels she has and why is it all bound up and she's not getting enough in her saliva, or maybe she's got more free hormones than she does bound hormones. And we want to really get a really big picture of what's happening on that level, because it takes a completely different approach to, okay, if you're binding up all these hormones like poor Pam was, well, we had to get her off the oral stuff in order to lower that sex hormone binding globulin. There's some people that if they've got really high levels, for instance, of free hormone levels, and maybe that'll show that they're estrogen dominant. I can't really remember what this girl ended up being, but I had to look at her labs and tell her. But just so you guys can hear that's the difference between bound and unbound saliva versus serum testing. Okay, so Pam's question was, once I get my thyroid hormones balanced, what's the best way, diet or exercise, to lose the fat I gained from hypothyroid as fast as I can while maintaining my thyroid hormones. As fast as I can. There's the first red flag right there.
There's no fast way to lose weight unless you have the
Thank you.
flu, in which case you lose like 8 pounds in a day and you gain it right
Yeah.
back when you start
COVID, I
eating again.
lost a ton. It was great, but I gained it right back.
Of course. So whatever body you're in today is a result of the choices that you've made over the last 3, 6, 9 months, year. That's the way it goes. And like with being pregnant, it takes 10 months to cook a baby. It takes about that long to take it off. You have to give yourself grace. It's never going to be fast. Exercise will never, ever, ever help you as much as your food will. Getting enough protein every day. Women, we love our carbs. Every woman I've worked with, Pam, I love my carbs. Oh my God, of course you do. Everybody does. But, and if you're a certain age, when I was growing up, all the magazines had eat 3 ounces of chicken and 1 cup of broccoli. Okay, I'd be starving if all I ate was 3 ounces of chicken. I want women to eat 4 to 7 ounces of protein every time they eat. And they're like, that's a lot. But guess what? You are full for hours. I don't want you to spend so much time thinking about what you're going to eat because I want you to be full. So getting enough protein, and I talked about this with Karen. She was, when she had her food journal, she's like, oh my God, I'm not eating enough protein.
I was terrible. I was so ashamed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a nutritionist. How could I not notice that? I wasn't eating enough.
And by keeping her food journal, she realized that. And then she knew I was going to be looking at it. So it made her go, oh, I better figure out a way to get more protein in. And she was full, right? That was the thing. And sarcopenia is a real thing. We start losing muscle after the age of 30, 35, unless you actively eat enough protein and strength train. So there's a whole bunch of good reasons why I want women to eat more protein. Logging your food. Now, Karen was very against this. And I'm like, you got to try it for me. Because it's easy to say, I'm eating clean. My fingers up in the air. I'm eating clean and I'm fine. Last time I ate clean, I gained 20 pounds when I didn't actually track what I was eating. So logging your food is going to be huge, as well as getting enough protein. For women, 25 to 30 grams every time you eat. And if you don't know what that is, Google's your best friend. And I said, there's no best protein. There's whatever you like is the best, and lots of veg. And for most women, about a pound a week. If you are in a small calorie deficit, and I want to address this real quick, is women think, I want to lose as much as I can, as fast as I can. And if you put in like an app like MyFitnessPal, which by the way, you never need to pay for the paid version, the free version is great. If you put in there, I want to lose 2 pounds a week, it's going to give you too much of a calorie deficit. And what happens then is you're hungry. And by Friday, you will binge because you're not eating enough. So slow and steady wins the weight loss game. And ladies, this never ends. This clean eating, not clean, this eating lots of protein and veg is for the rest of your life. It's not till you are done losing weight. Because if you go back to the way you used to eat, you'll put the weight back on.
Yeah, we always seem to have an end, the feeling like there's an end to it, right?
Yes.
It's like, let's do this for a month, even if it's subconscious, you still have this feeling like it's going to end, like that the healthy eating, it can end and we can go back to the way we were eating before. It doesn't end. She's right. It does not end. And your macro needs are going to change throughout your life. I'd like to ask you a question actually, Pam, do you have a certain amount of protein that you like people to get in? Like you're saying, what did you say? 25 to 30? What was it?
Per meal, 25 to 30 grams per meal.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great place for people to start who have never tracked. And then once they get used to that, I would say women should have a minimum of 100 grams a day.
Yeah.
Which seems like so much, but it's really not.
And then if you're lifting heavy, let's say 4 to 5 times a week, are we moving that up?
Like to 115 to 125.
Okay.
And if you Google it, you'll see a lot of people that say you should have 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight.
Mhm.
I don't know a woman that can make that happen without having 3 protein shakes a day. I'd rather have you chew your food, like 1 protein shake a day, great, because I think it's an easy way to get it in. But I mean, if your ideal body weight's 140 pounds, that is darn near
Oh.
impossible to chew that much.
Oh my God. I can't imagine. I just listened to a podcast the other day on Dave Asprey's podcast, and he was interviewing a woman, a doctor who's all about the protein. And she was saying, I want my clients to eat 50 grams of protein at every meal. And I was like, but we have an off switch for protein
Yes, yes, you
for
cannot.
a reason.
Was that Dr. Gabrielle Lyon?
Yes.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah,
yep,
wonderful. She
yeah,
was really smart and I appreciated
yep,
everything that she said. And I'll probably even have her on the podcast to talk about it. But I had to think to myself, I couldn't, like, I just couldn't do that. I would vomit. Like it would make, because I have a complete off switch. I'll eat protein. I can be
sure.
eating, let's say, a great big steak. And then suddenly it's like, I'm almost getting a gag reflex. And I'm like, whoa, that's enough.
Yep, agreed. For anything, for chicken breast, for turkey, for anything. And I know I've listened to her a bunch. She has 5 eggs every day for breakfast, and then she loves her ground bison, and she like 8 ounces. And I'm like, how can you eat 8 ounces? Like that's so much.
Even the carnivore diet people don't eat that much. They
I
don't,
know.
because they
Yeah.
have an off switch with it. And they're like, I can't stomach anymore after X amount. And
Yep.
when I interviewed the authors of Eat Like the Animals,
Hmm.
these two guys researched the heck out of macronutrients and what humans need and what we're driven to eat. And they came up with this, like, we will overeat carbs and fat to meet our protein requirements. And so we do need a certain amount in order to not overeat the carbs and fat. And that is so true. When you put in protein first and you prioritize it, you will watch your carb intake drop and you will watch your fat intake drop and the unhealthy eating drop when you have protein first, because it's so satiating. But they also saw that there was a threshold, and I can't remember, they explained why and what happens and how it's like everything that goes way back to hunter gatherer days, and why our bodies said, okay, that's enough, and we don't want to go over that, but we don't want to go under it either. And so it is, I think, the primary macro that we have to base everything around.
It is, and I've actually had I mean, many clients, but one in particular, she said, Pam, you don't understand. I love my carbs. So I'm like, trust me. And then literally the next week, our first week working at it, she goes, I, I can't believe how full I am. Oh my gosh. I don't think I was ever full, because she was having the English muffin with butter. That, and for those ladies that don't know, carbs are sugar. Bread is sugar in your
Oh,
body.
I know.
I'm
So many
sorry
people
to
don't
be.
know that.
So I told her, I'm like, it's like having a sugar cookie for breakfast. She's like, what are you talking? It's bread. I'm like, bread is sugar.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's the grainy bread or the
Yeah,
healthy
yeah.
bread. It's
But I
still,
eat this the sprouted swirly bread, Karen, and I'm like, your body does not say, "Oh, this is sprouted wheat. We will not raise blood sugar because it's sprouted." It does not. It may
yeah.
slow down the release of the blood sugar because it's got a fiber content to it. It still is converted to sugar. Period. End of story. It doesn't matter how healthy it is.
No, and then you're hungry like an hour and a half or 2 hours later,
Yes.
and you wonder why you're hungry. Well, when you have 4 to 6 ounces of protein and a ton of fiber, you don't think about food for hours,
Yeah.
unless you're PMSing, and then you might be craving sugar. But aside from that,
But I always say you save it for that time, right?
yep,
And when you get more in tune, the more in tune you get with your body and your hunger signals. And you can only do that by correcting digestive issues, balancing the hormones, because hormones will drive you to eat sugar if they're out of balance, right? If our
yep, yep,
cortisol is super high or if our thyroid is really low, we are going to crave, if we've got insulin resistance, any blood sugar issue, your body is going to be craving sugar. It's going to be like over the top, give me
Yep.
carbs, because it's looking for energy. And when those hormones are deficient, we're deficient in, and it's not getting the energy from the food. And so your body goes, come on, eat sugar, eat nothing but sugar. And it can really drive eating behavior. So this whole like intuitive eating movement, I think we talked about that in our last podcast, Pam. So people can go back and listen to that. But you can't intuitively eat if that intuition gauge is completely messed up, which if you have those hormonal issues, that's going to be happening. Yeah.
Agreed.
Great. Okay. Question for me.
Yes. Should a woman address leptin and insulin resistance
At the same time? Yes.
Yes.
So they always go hand in hand. Like if you're leptin resistant, you're always going to be insulin resistant. And you should address them both at the same time. And they actually take different protocols in order to correct, like similar but different. Like there's certain things that you can do to really help your leptin sensitivity. And then there's something different when it comes to the insulin sensitivity. So they both take correcting food, of course, but there's different things for each of those that you would do at the same time that would help both of those things correct itself. So yes, and I won't get into details about it because we're running out of time. But there's all about it in the program. If you want to know more, I have a leptin resistant protocol in there. Okay, Pam, is there a negative impact of training fasted with hypothyroid?
I just talked about this yesterday. No. Okay, two answers. I have never seen that, but I also highly encourage every woman listening to become the expert on your body. I personally work out in the morning. I don't eat before I work out. I have never experienced problems. Even when I was a long distance runner and I'd go out for like a 10-mile run, I never ate before. My body works better fasted. That's me. Everybody's different. If you work out and you're like super shaky, your energy's low, you can't handle it, you might need a banana before you work out. You might need, I'm not going to say toast because that's like have a cookie before, but figuring out what works best for your body. Usually a simple carb like a banana will help you from feeling shaky and faint. I had many people when I used to work at a gym would come like at the morning class fasted, but they would have a protein shake for literally in their car on the way home. So they'd put nutrition in. At the end of the day, we have to become the experts on our bodies. So I don't think there's a blanket statement for hypothyroidism in particular. And it depends what time of day you're working out. Like if you're not working out till noon, you might not want to fast until noon if you have a really hard workout. So maybe at 10 o'clock, you want to have a protein shake and an apple or a banana. And by the way, ladies, fruit will never make you fat. The keto people have done the worst job at making people afraid to eat fruit.
Oh, they have.
In 25 years, I've never seen a woman get fat from eating fruit. Girl Scout cookies, yes. Wine, yes. Fruit, no.
And there's research. I interviewed one of the leading obesity researchers in the United States. And I'm not going to remember his name right now. It will come to me, and I'll link to it in the show notes. I'll find it and I'll link to it. Guy somebody. That's his first name was Guy Gessanet or something. Anyways, I asked him about that. And here's the guy, leading obesity researcher. And he said, the research proves eating fruit does not make you gain weight. And I thought that was so great to hear because, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people that really demonize it. And for sure, like, I don't think you should become a fruitarian.
No.
We don't want to overdo it because it does have naturally occurring sugars in it, but it's also full of vitamins and minerals and fiber. And those things are all very important when it comes to maintaining weight. So in a positive way. So yes, I don't think that fruit is a big deal, but that was a great interview that I did with him. So I am going to link to that for sure. And you guys can go in and check it out. So as we wrap this up, I will be having Pam back again, and we'll do some more Q&A stuff, and we'll do different topics. You guys can, I'm going to put the link in the show notes to where you can ask questions that you would like us to answer on the podcast, or if you have a topic suggestion that you'd like to hear us talk about. We always want to hear your guys' feedback.
And women, please know that every minute you spend on yourself and your health, it's like putting health coins in your piggy bank long term. Where we're perfectionists. If you can't do an hour, why bother? Stop it. Every minute you spend is 100% worth it.
Yes, I love that. And I remember you saying that to me last year, which was 10 minutes is 10 minutes. And that's 10 minutes of something that you're doing for you, for your body, for your health. That could never be a waste. It doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it's still a benefit. And that really clicked for me in my brain. And because I would use that all the time as an excuse. Oh, I don't have any time. I only have 10 minutes before I have to start work, or whatever it might be. And so now I can't use that as an excuse anymore. So I appreciate that. Any last words, Pam?
Never give up on yourself or your goals, and you are never too old to make changes. And you can do it. You've done hard things. You absolutely can make change.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me in today's podcast episode. And I look forward to having you back for number 5.
Can't wait.